Report story. It had been 2 weeks since Valentine's Day, and while that night had seemed to put Ochaco at ease for a brief moment, the weeks following seemed to differ. Izuku had been silently worried about Ochaco. He saw her very little, usually only at night. And even then, she would usually just cuddle him until she fell asleep. By the time he woke up to train in the early hours of the morning, she was already gone. Deku. Eri asked one day in Izuku's room as he studied, catching up on his assignments he had put off in order for his daily meditation. Is Koko okay gonna be okay? Izuku sighed and set his pencil down, beckoning for the girl to come. She excitedly jumped off his own bed, preferring his over her own, and ran to him, ready to be placed in his lap. Ocha is one of the strongest people I know, he said, looking down into Eri's big eyes. She can make it through anything. I know she can. You're not losing faith in her, are you? Izuku said this last part with an eyebrow raised and a small smirk. Eri furrowed her eyebrows angrily. Never. I would never lose hope in her, she said, waving her arms. Izuku laughed. And neither will I, Izuku said, rubbing her head. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Come in, Izuku called out. The door opened, revealing his blue-haired sharp-eyed borrowed best friend. Iida. Hey, how can I help ya? Izuku said with a smile, though Iida had a grave look on his face that Izuku caught onto. Midoriya, would you like to go on a run with me? I really need a workout partner. Even without your quirk, with how strong you are, I'm sure you can keep up. Izuku gave Iida a serious look before smiling down at Eri. Eri, could you watch over my room for me? If you see an angry blonde boy come in here, let him know I'm gone, okay? Eri did a little salute before Izuku set her down on the floor, walking out with Iida. Iida and Izuku walked through the corridors and out to the entrance of the dorms. They stretched and started jogging down the path away from the dorms. Any sign of your quirk coming back? Iida asked as they jogged. Izuku shook his head. Not necessarily. I feel my quirk, but it's not showing any signs of listening to me. I don't necessarily know why, but it's as if the drug is treating me differently. This wasn't entirely true. Izuku had pretty much put together that One for All was perfectly fine. It was his receptors that were not acting right. The drug was built for natural-born quirk users, not artificial ones. It caused a different kind of damage to Izuku. Ultimately, it was up to One for All to repair those receptors, however One for All couldn't repair them. Or wouldn't repair them. Izuku's connection to One for All spiritually had gotten a lot stronger though. He could now access the vestige realm at will, with a few minutes of perfectly calm meditation, though communicating with the vestiges was still a work in progress. They seemed to want to talk to him, but his connection just wasn't strong enough yet. Ima, keep it 100% with you, Midoriya, Iida said, slowing down and coming to a halt. Izuku slowed next to him and stopped a few feet in front of Iida. Ochaco isn't looking too good, Iida said, staring his best friend down. Izuku's face fell a bit. I can tell, but not as much as you probably do. I only see her at night and she's been distant lately. She won't talk to me. Promoted stories. You'll also like. I Hate and Love You. 258K 4.6 Con. IzuOcha fanfiction where Deku and Uraraka had a fight in kindergarten which led to something worse. But maybe they can be friends or perhaps more. Non-Quirko rated. Revenge of the wronged hero who happens to be One could have thought that someone as pure and innocent as Izuku Midoriya would be betrayed by his friends who he thought that he could trust with everything he has. Falling 71.4K 1.3 Kever. Since Izuku Midoriya joined UA High School and settled in, he knew that the League of Villains were after him and his quirk, one for all. However, when the time c. The life of 17.1K 486 Izuku. Midoriya wanted to be a hero his whole life and was bullied for it since he was quirkless. Izuku Midoriya was told that he would never get a quirk by his doctor, Dreamon B.K. Downwards arrow tip rightwards, in which a jealous bachelor signs a deal with the devil in order to win over the heart of his first love. Katsuki Bakugo has loved the PR. Golden, Hispanic, Latina. Femme. Reader. Ex-Izuku. Heiress to the richest company in the world. The government of Japan has good relationships with your grandfather. It was the duty of the government to save. I can't lose you. Warning, spoiler warning. Mentions of the events leading up to, including and following the internship arc. Warning, Katsuki has always been bad at expressing his feelings, but when she doesn't want to worry you, Iida said. She falls asleep in class, there are bags under her eyes, she patrols late, stays up looking at those documents trying to find anything she can on this villain. Kirishima and the rest feel the same way, but she's working twice as hard as them, though I'm sure Bakugo would work harder if he had free reign. Iida walked over and put a hand on Izuku's shoulder. You need to be there for her. I know you have a lot going on too, with losing your quirk, watching Eri, keeping up with school work. In fact, the reason I told you was because I figured you'd want to know. I know how much you care about her. Quote dot. Iida said with a soft smile. Izuku sighed. He didn't know things were that bad for her. Thank you for telling me, Iida. I'll try and talk to her tonight. She can't avoid me forever. Late nights, long patrol hours, school. Ochaco felt the world was crashing around her. The only pillar of hope she had was Izuku, however, she had stayed quiet. She didn't want to worry her boyfriend. Izuku's quirk had no signs of returning, and while Izuku remained calm and normal for the most part, she could tell better than anyone it was weighing on him a bit. Ochako sat at one of the tables at the UQ agency, trying her best to stay awake. She was reading through the documents once again. Izuku had brought up to her that two of the instances that dealt with Lighter, him disappearing and the flames at the house, seemed slightly connected to the League of Villains, however there was no proof on it. This wasn't right. Something was wrong. Gaslighter acted purely out of rage, confusion, instability. He attacked Izuku, went to burn an apartment building with people inside, and then directly headed for UA to attack, only to disappear for weeks on end. A person as unstable as him wouldn't just attack places in a row only to just stop and disappear. Something was going on, but there weren't any leads. And no matter where she looked, nothing was getting her to her answer. Izuku was in danger, Eri was in danger, UA was in danger, and nothing was going right. Ochako banged the table a few times, papers falling of the desk. What was she supposed to do? She put her head in her arms on the table. She just wanted Izuku to be there with her. Hey, Uravati. A voice called. Ochaco looked up to see Yukio staring down at her. Go home. Call it a day. What? But it's still early. I can't go yet. I haven't found anything. And neither have the pros. Trust me, everything you're confused about is just as if not more confusing to us pros. It doesn't make sense. But you're running yourself ragged. Look at you. Ochaco turned to the window to look at her reflection. Her hair was a mess, her skin was pale, her bags under her eyes were dark, and her eyes themselves were bloodshot. If we located gas lighter tomorrow, you wouldn't be much help. If anything, you would most likely slow us down. Uraraka. Go home, rest well, enjoying being with that Midoriya boy. There's no point in being a hero if you can't take care of yourself. So this is what it was like to be Izuku. Ochaco looked down at the papers she had tossed over the floor and began to pick them up. Yes. I understand. Ochaco said quietly as she grabbed her bag. She put it on and slowly walked towards the exit. Uraraka. Yukio called out. Ochaco tiredly looked back. You're doing a good job. You've got a spot secured in my agency when you graduate. Ochaco smiled weakly and turned back towards the darkened streets. She sighed as she rode the train back to the school. How could she rest? She couldn't rest like this. Not with him still out there. He was going to hurt her family. Her tired eyes widened a bit at what she had said there. She had thought of Eri and Izuku as her family. God, wasn't she a bit too young to be thinking that? She felt tears appear in her eyes as she rested her head on the bumpy pole of the train. She needed to catch this guy. She won't let them get hurt. Ochaco didn't go straight to her room. She went to Izuku's. She made it to Izuku's door and raised her hand to knock. Ochaco. A loud voice called out. Ochaco turned her tired eyes to Mina, who was running after her. Hey, it's good to see you. Where have you? Hey, girl, are you okay? Mina asked, noticing Ochaco's features. Peachy. In fact, I'm glad you're here. Ochaco decided to just open the door to see Izuku reading papers with Eri in his lap. Izuku turned with a surprised look to see Ochaco at the door. Ochaco looked down at the silver-haired girl. Ochaco lifted her finger and waved it towards her body, signaling Eri to come her to her. Eri ran to her and picked the little girl up in her arms. Hello, Eri. Mommy and Daddy are going to have a talk for a bit, so you're going to hang out with Auntie Mina for a little while. Mommy and Daddy, Izuku said with a confused face across the room. Auntie, Mina said from the hallway. Usually Mina would have screamed hearing that, but that came out of nowhere for her, along with being worried about Ochaco. Ochaco handed Auntie Mina the little girl and went inside Izuku's room, closing the door behind her, leaving Mina and the girl alone. Mina looked at the girl now in her arms. So, what do you like to do for fun? Mina asked the girl nervously. Eri smiled. Inside Izuku's room, Ochaco dropped her bags and ran to Izuku, jumping in his arms. Izuku caught her while in his chair, still flustered by the fact Ochaco had just called him a dad. Suddenly Izuku felt Ochaco's uneasy breaths and sniffles. Izuku placed one hand on her head and the other on her back. He had expected to have to chase her down in order to get her to open up. This was much easier than he had thought. Ocha, it's okay. It's okay. What's wrong? He asked soothingly as he stroked her hair. I can't do it. I can't find him, Izuku. I don't know what to do. I'm tired. I'm stressed. I'm falling behind. I can't do this without you, I'm so tired. She cried into his shoulder. Izuku felt tears coming to his own eyes, but he shook them off. He had to be strong for her. Hey, hey, hey. I know it's stressful. You can't do this alone, you know. I hear even the pros are having a hard time with this one. Don't be too hard on yourself. You've done everything you can up until this point. Now all you need to do is rest. I can't, Izuku. I can't let them hurt you. I wouldn't forgive myself, she said, shaking her head in his neck. Izuku took a deep breath. He had to get one for all fixed. Soon, Izuku picked up Ochaco bridal style and laid her in his bed. Ochaco grabbed his sleeve. Sleep with me, she asked. Izuku smiled at those tired brown eyes. Of course, let me just go grab our daughter, real fast. We dunno what Auntie Mina is teaching her. He chuckled. He went out and grabbed Eri out of Mina's arms in the common room and started carrying her back to the room. Daddy, is mommy going to be okay? Eri asked. Izuku took a deep breath and breathed out. Did Mina tell you to start calling us that? Izuku asked. Eri stayed quiet. She made you promise not to tell, didn't she? Izuku asked. Good girl, Eri. Izuku heard Mina yell from down the hall. Izuku shook his head. He would talk to her later. Though he had to admit, the one who ultimately put that on them was Ochaco. Izuku laid Eri down in her own bed, instructing her to go to sleep as he got in bed with Ochaco. He brushed hair out of her pale face and looked into her bloodshot eyes with his green ones. Everything will be okay, Ocha. Nothing will happen to me, not while I have anything to say about it. Izuku noticed tears forming in Ochako's eyes before she scooted closer and leaned into her lover's chest. Izuku wrapped his arms around her as a look of anger and determination grew in his own eyes. Gaslighter did this to Ochaco. He will fix one for all, and he will put an end to this. He, Ochaco, and the pros would find a way. Little did he know that most of the pro-hero agencies would be all, at the same time, burning in the next few hours. Oh, where stories live. Discover now.